Let's stay on the story now. The ANC is an organised crime syndicate operating as a political party. That's according to opposition party, the Democratic Alliance. Now, the party says that the state capture report proves that the ANC itself is a true cause of state capture in the country, and it's called the president to act. For more on this, we're joined now by the Democratic Alliance Shadow Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Cilliers Brink. Cilliers, many thanks for your time this evening. I mean, we've spoken about the fact that you think it's an organised crime syndicate that's been operating as a political party. I mean, we do know that our president doesn't always act immediately on anything that is uncovered about his cabinet members or fellow members of the party. So one would be a little bit pessimistic that any immediate action would happen in this regard.
Well, you know, what the president thinks and what his approach is one thing. What his constitutional obligation is to the people of South Africa is quite something else. If you read this report, running like a golden thread through its about 1,000 pages, is the central role of the ANC in orchestrating state capture. And that places a big burden on the president, not just as the leader of the ANC, but as the head of government, to act, to restore public confidence in his government. But yes, we do share your pessimism that this is not going to happen. So despite this report saying, speaking of ANC members facilitating corrupt contracts to Bosasa, Bosasa participating in an arrangement designed to make sure that ANC deployed cadres are well disposed towards that organization, helping the ANC with the running of its 2014 election war room, and the very, very clear indication that there is a strong case of possible corruption against Minister Gwede Mantashe, that President Cyril Ramaphosa is not going to act. And so the DA has brought to Parliament a motion of no confidence in President Cyril Ramaphosa's entire cabinet. And we believe that that might help the president to make the decisions that he clearly lacks the courage or the conviction or the political capital to make by himself.
No, absolutely, and that was the point that I was hoping we'd touch on next, is the pending motion of no confidence that you've put forward for the entire cabinet to be removed. I mean, how confident are you that there is any kind of success should this actually take place in Parliament?
Well, we know that tremendous pressure has been brought to bear on the ANC by the Zondo Commission. Yes, of course, South Africa want to see prosecutions. We are also very concerned about the failure of the prosecuting authority to act. But the reputation of the ANC has been destroyed to a large extent. There is a lot of pressure on the organization, on the president. The ANC is divided. And so there is the outside chance that there might be members of that ANC caucus who are currently in the majority who agree with the DA and who think that the only way President Cyril Ramaphosa is going to act is if his hand is forced. This kind of motion has never been before Parliament, and we want to test it, and we think that this is an opportunity, a very important opportunity to do so.
It's also an opportune time for the president to learn to separate state from party matters. That would then give him the power or the authority to deal decisively when things like this are happening. This obviously is not the mandate for the ANC. Things are muddied in that there is no clear separation between the two.
That's a very important point, and one of the other themes of the Zondo Commission is the role that the ANC's cadre deployment policy has played in compromising the integrity of the state. So that very important dividing line between party and state has been demolished as a matter of policy. And what is very concerning is that when President Cyril Ramaphosa appeared before the Zondo Commission, he defended cadre deployment. He said it's perfectly normal. We now see that it's not perfectly normal. And just to make one further point, I listened to Gwede Mantashe in a very arrogant way saying, oh, well, the Zondo Commission said that there's likely to be found prima facie evidence of corruption against him, but until that happens, he's not going to move. Well, he sits there in a very important and influential position. What is to say he's not going to use his job and his position in cabinet to undermine the investigation against him. We know that the National Prosecuting Authority is already very slow to act, under-resourced, hollowed out, together with what state capture has already done. Who is to say that Minister Gwede Mantashe is not to use his power to stop the apparatus of the state from holding him accountable? And so I think we must be take a very, very strong stand. And the other point I want to make is that we will be watching out as the DA that government doesn't pay for this review application that Minister Mantashe wants to bring to set aside the report of the Zondo Commission. He can't be using state resources for that. He's under investigation for something he did before he was a cabinet minister, when he was the national chairperson of the ANC. He must pay himself, and in the meantime, he must be removed. But we've got little faith that he will resign himself. That's clear, and so this motion of no confidence in the cabinet, we believe, is the opportunity to do so.
What say you about the fact that the ANC, we've had a number of NEC members engage us on the channel, Pule Mabe being one of them, in that there will be action taken against those that have been implicated, and they are likely to be brought forth to the Integrity Commission within the party. I mean, are you confident that this will yield any results in terms of getting justice for the malfeasance that we've seen over the past decade?
No, this third installment of the Zondo report makes it clear that the ANC is a compromised organization. It is fundamentally corrupt. And in this particular instance, we can't trust the Integrity Commission of the ANC because there is no integrity in the ANC. And that's not just a party political point. It's been substantiated by the findings of the Zondo Commission. So no, we can't trust that. The folks who have been implicated must do the right thing, step aside from the position if they hold a government position. What the ANC does to its own employees is its own matter. But where people are in positions of authority, like Minister Gwede Mantashe, in a position to possibly undermine the processes that must follow against him, he should not be close to a position of authority.
Now, we have heard the Democratic Alliance call the ANC out on various matters of malfeasance over the years, but we really haven't heard from the DA's party leader after Mr. Albert Fritz was fired for gross misconduct that is suspected to have started in 2018. I mean, what say you to this? And really, why haven't we heard much from the DA's party leader, Mr. John Steenhuisen, around the firing and the subsequent actions that have been taken by the Premier's office?
Well, John Steenhuisen is in full support of what Alan Winde has done as Premier of the Western Cape, who is in government the direct political principal of the former provincial minister, Albert Fritz. And the public heard of this matter first from Alan Winde, who acted on whistleblower advice that was provided to him, immediately announced the minister's suspension, ordered that investigation to happen, and when that report came through, providing sufficient evidence of the bad behavior or the inappropriate behavior by the provincial minister, decided to relieve him of his duties. And that is what should happen. Fire people against whom there is credible evidence that they have breached the rules or the law. And I think John Steenhuisen will confirm to you that he's 100% in support of what Premier Alan Winde has done. And if only the ANC would follow the DA's example. And it is also important to note
indeed,
that Albert
Mr.
Fritz
Brink,
himself has resigned.
Yes. And that was
and
the point that I want to
no
bring
longer
up
holds a
now.
position in
Apologies for
politics.
coming in there, Mr. Brink,
Sure.
that he did resign. But why didn't John Steenhuisen take the step to fire him as a senior member of the DA? Because it's separate, the fact that he was fired by the Premier's office after that investigation was concluded. But why didn't John Steenhuisen take a bold step and do something while he was still a senior member of the DA? Or was it just a matter of waiting for the investigation to be concluded?
I think exactly because Premier Alan Winde immediately put in process an investigation, and if John Steenhuisen had simply fired Albert Fritz without hearing his side and without allowing Premier Alan Winde's investigation to run its course, then he would have undermined that process. And that would also have undermined us getting to the bottom of what's actually happening here. I think that due process was very important, but it's also important to note that it happened very quickly. And so now, Albert Fritz is no longer in that position. The investigation has been allowed to run its course to date. There has been sufficient protection for the victims in this matter. And I think it is the best that could have been done in truly terrible circumstances.
And